What's your problem? What's your problem? I don't get what your problem is.
Hi, my name is Kaylin.
And I'm Adam.
Welcome to What's Your Problem, where we discuss current issues in distance learning and education. We're switching things up a bit this episode, and here's Jason to tell us more.
What's Your Problem was actually originally envisioned as a sort of Mythbusters ripoff, where we would review a myth about distance learning and then bust it. This idea kind of took a back seat as the show evolved, but for this episode we decided to embrace our original vision and lean way into it for our first thematic episode. For this episode, we won't be providing 3 solutions to a common problem, but instead we'll explore a few of the myths circling around distance learning modalities and then attempt to bust them. For this episode, we're truth seekers, not unlike the incomparable Christopher Reeve, who, as Superman, thwarted myth in his tireless pursuit for truth, justice, and the American way. Lastly, I should mention the things you're about to see should be attempted at home, or anywhere else that you teach your online classes. So let's go to the lab.
Okay, Jason, so the first myth that we're going to talk about today is that the idea that faculty teaching distance learning courses have to spend more time dealing with technology issues than they do with teaching. And according to an article called The Online Learning Myths, Reality, and Promise that was done as part of a study recently, this was one of the original myths of distance learning education, but it's still one of the most prominent fears of people today. So there are technical issues, right? But those issues also provide a lot of opportunities for engagement, collaboration, access, opportunities that we wouldn't have otherwise had. So we're going to do a little experiment here to demonstrate why this myth is false, right? So let's pretend on our dry erase board here, your priority number 1 is teaching, right? So we'll draw a little T here in the center. That's what we want to focus on. But when you start teaching, especially an online class, you have all these other issues crop up, right? Like the LMS, you have email, you have passwords, you have publisher resources, you have videos, you have emails with students, you have all these other things, technical issues that can distract you. But, Jason, if you stare right at the center there, at your objective, you're focusing on teaching. Watch what happens to the circles around the outside. And you can try this again at home. You'll notice the other marks seem to disappear. This is a phenomenon known as the Troxler effect. When we focus on a single point, peripheral objects begin to fade away. They don't disappear, just like you'll never really stop technical issues from happening in your class. But if you rely on your support resources, like Blackboard support, built-in tutorials, and help resources, and focus on the teaching, those technology issues will slowly fade away, only popping up to cause minor distractions every now and again. So the Troxler effect demonstrates something very similar to what we deal with in online courses. We're never going to get rid of those peripheral issues, right? So as long as we stay focused on our main goal, which is teaching, all of the other issues in our peripheral will fade into the background.
Our second myth today is that students can't be as successful online as they are face-to-face. Many studies over the years have failed to support the negative perspective that a lot of faculty have toward online education. Numerous recent studies which explored effectiveness, retention, and achievement in both online and face-to-face modalities all concluded that virtual instruction can be as good or better than on-campus teaching. So there are 3 things we need to make a successful course. One is an effective instructor, another is active presentation of content, and the third is engaged students. So we have 2 pans here. The rectangle one represents face-to-face and the circle one represents online. Now they're the same course, it's just how they're presented is different.
The milk is the course, which is the foundation of content whether the course is online or on campus. The foundation can be flexible depending on which modality is being taught. The color is the students. All students are usually present in both modalities at the same rate at the beginning of the course. The soap is the instructor, course content, and tools utilized. These have the ability to mix well with students and create a community of collaboration and interest. See how the same interactions occur when using the same soap online and face-to-face? And how different interactions occur when I change the soap? Basically, you need 3 things for an online course to be successful: an instructor presence, active presentation of content, and engaged students. If any of those 3 items are missing, the course is not going to be well received from either the teaching or learning end. However, if all those things are present, the active presentation of content, the instructor with social presence, and the engaged student, all of the items will blend well with each other for a successful course.
So in order for students to be successful, all three items need to be present whether the course is online or face-to-face.
Okay, so our third myth is that online courses are less collaborative. This is a pretty prevalent myth in online education. A lot of faculty and students think that if you're not in physical proximity to one another, that you really can't get that sort of personal interaction that that you want, you need actually out of a class. So, and to an extent that's true, because a course by itself can't really be collaborative. A course is just like this bottle here where we have some oil and some water. They're both in there. But they're not really doing anything. That's just like our course content, right? We have videos, we have articles, we have the textbook, we have some assignments, but they're just things. They just sit there, they're static. And so we think sometimes that when we add students to the classroom, right, that maybe that will make things work. But as you can see, even adding students to the mix here doesn't really make any of the course content do anything. In fact, a lot of the students sadly just kind of sink to the bottom there. So if we really want these things to start working together, what we need is you, the faculty member, because by adding some timely weekly announcements, maybe a little bit of encouraging feedback, maybe an email to students who are falling behind, or some thoughtful feedback on an assignment, or any of those little interactions that you can do even electronically, you'll start to see that those little things start to make all these pieces interact together. You'll see that they start to bubble around and bump into each other and actually create something pretty cool. You'll also notice that once you do just a few of those things, it's going on its own now, right? It's keeping itself going. And so if you ever do happen to notice that it starts to die down a little bit, a couple other timely pieces of feedback or interactions with students, and the whole thing kicks up again.
So as you can see, any course, whether it's face-to-face or online, isn't engaging or interactive on its own. It's really just a collection of resources. What it takes to make a course interactive and engaging for students is an engaged instructor.
So as a quick recap, we busted the myth that faculty work harder than students in online classes. Actually, the focus remains the same between modalities. Focus on the teaching, and the peripheral technical distractions associated with online teaching actually don't factor in much. We busted the myth that students are less successful online. It turns out, as long as there is an effective instructor, active presentation of content, and engaged students, a course can be successful regardless of how it's offered. Lastly, we busted the myth that online courses are less collaborative. With the right mix of instructor, interaction, and encouragement, the collaborative nature of an online course can thrive.
What's Your Problem wants to hear from you. If you have an idea you'd like us to discuss in a future episode, or if you just want to drop us a line, send us an email or follow us on Twitter.
Thanks for watching. See you next time.
What's your problem? What's your problem? I don't get what your problem is.
Welcome to Schoolcraft. Welcome to college.